welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another bonus episode for you. This is an interview that I did recently on the Keto Savage Podcast. It's been one of my absolute favorite podcasts to listen to over the years, and I was absolutely floored and honored that they would like to host me. So this is that interview. I talked with Robert Sikes, who is the CEO and creator of Keto Savage. We were fortunate enough to host him on episode 107 of our show, and so we ended up just making it a double where he turned around and interviewed me, and that is what you are about to hear. We talk a lot about the different pivots and challenges that we'd faced in our lives, talked a little bit about our careers and our business and how we had to start a business during the pandemic, which was really fun and interesting. We actually didn't even talk that much about diet, which is totally fine because we cover that topic a lot, and so does Robert on his podcast. We ended up spending a bit of time on a word that I've been contemplating lately, which is the word enough. When do we know that our efforts, our work, the challenges we face, when are we given enough to those? And I think that's a really challenging and difficult question to answer. Robert has also helped me understand Stoicism and has kind of sent us a little bit down a rabbit hole, exploring, the great Stoics in the Greco-Roman age and all the lessons they taught us. So anyway, we really hope you enjoy this episode. Please, if you would, support Robert and his work. Go subscribe to his podcast and make sure to leave a rating and review. And without further ado, this is my interview on the Keto Savage Podcast.
Well, hello, ladies and gents. Robert Sikes, KetoSavage.com, and today I've got special guest Casey Ruff on the line. Casey is one of the brains, along with his wife, behind the Boundless Body Radio podcast and brand, and I was super excited to get him on the show today. He just had me on his podcast. We did a back-to-back doubleheader, and I had him on mine, and I wanted to dive super deep into his motivation for starting the brand, starting the business, which he and his wife run now entirely. He was working as a trainer in a big box gym. The pandemic happened, and he totally branched off into his own thing, and it's been going wonderfully well for him. So I wanted to dive into the entrepreneurial journey, but we also talked quite a bit about mindset, minimalism, how to find your point in life that is filled with fulfillment. What is enough? So many people are constantly in the rat race trying to keep up with the Joneses and always do more to the point of it's, not really being in line or as a person and what they and to be truly fulfilling. So really diving deep into the concept of enough was very, very interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I've got no doubt that you will as well. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast with Casey. Casey, how are you, man?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully well. So, little context. We're already warmed up, man. I was just on your podcast. We're doing a back-to-back doubleheader. I was on your show first. You're on my show second. So, I'd love to dive in with a little bit of discussion on what got you into podcasting in the first place, man. I'm always kind of intrigued as to why people are motivated to start a podcast.
Sure.
Was it because of your health journey? What was going on?
Yeah, so I was introduced to podcasts, I want to say like 2014, 2015. And it was a podcast. I didn't know what they were, honestly. And I remember I was going to take a road trip, and I figured I, would be more productive if I learned something while I was driving versus just listening to music all the time, which is what, I did back then. And I found a podcast called Rewild Yourself with Daniel Vitalis. Mm-hmm. And he introduced me to so many different concepts that I was completely unaware of at the time, which seemed really progressive. He was talking about sunshine. He was talking about eating lots of fat, hunting, natural births and breastfeeding, all these topics that I didn't know very much about. And I learned a ton from that show. And so from there, I just started branching out and listening to more on the topics that really got me excited and interested in certain things, and learned along the way. And as soon as, the shutdown happened and 2020 happened, we realized that our gym is probably not going to be a great option for us to go back to. That's where we were working at the time, and started to realize that we can start our own company. We can train our people. And this is something that I can start up. I have the time. I've got more resources now. And so for me, it was just, I wanted to talk to great people about their stories. Our show's about health and fitness, but it's really a storytelling show. And I want to hear some of those great stories and help inspire people and help educate people. And if we have a client that wants some education about feet, well, I now have a few episodes that are resources that I can share with my own clients. And if nobody else listens to it, that's a really great resource. So we started in October of 2020, and we are at, I want to say 97 releases so far, and planning on 3 a week for this foreseeable future. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. So much fun.
I love it, man. I love it. So before you started the podcast, before you were doing your own thing, you were working at a gym? Like what was
Yes.
that like? What was the life pre-pandemic for you?
Yeah. So I was in school. This is 2006. I was in school studying architecture, and a big corporate gym opened up just kind of down the street from where I was living at the time. And I just decided, like, I was cycling a lot in the summer and just needed a place to train in the off season. I didn't have much interest in a gym per se, but we decided that we were going to sign up. I signed up as a member of this gym. And I remember that winter of 2006 into 2007, just watching the trainers. And it was interesting. They were using heart rate monitors at the time, which is something that I had been doing for a very long time. And I thought it was kind of cool. They were using, metabolic testing and heart rate zones to really validate training. And I thought, well, hey, this is an interesting fit. It looks like fun. I mean, they're just having conversations with their clients and keeping it really light. And these people are getting fit and they're working in the health industry. And so in spring of 2007, I marched into the department head's office. I asked what I needed to do to be a personal trainer. I got my first online certification in 2007, got hired by them. And that's how things got started.
And what were you going to do with the architecture background? Was that like totally thrown out the window, or was that something you were still trying to do at the time?
Yeah, no. So I didn't realize how much math you had to do for architecture. And as a personal trainer, everybody knows that we can barely handle counting to 12 most days. So I did about 1.5 years of school and nothing ever became of it. I started working as a trainer. I made that into a career, and it's been, success ever since. Added lots of different certifications, worked with different people over the years. Bethany started with the same company back in 2014. We met at the Colorado location in 2016 and started dating. So it's something that both of us had a background in, and working with people in a big corporate gym setting. So yeah, architecture is it's long gone.
I feel like personal training has evolved so much over the last 5 years. It's just unreal. Like you're talking about the typical big box corporate gym setting in which you go there, they assign you a trainer, and then they show you how to do some basic movements. They count you through sets and reps. What do you think about the whole online training genre right now? Is that something that people that do in-person personal training like or dislike, or what's the overall vibe towards that?
Great question. I think 2020 had just really forced that issue. I think we were heading in that direction anyway, but I think the pandemic and everything closing down forced that issue to push harder. And that's the whole reason we're having this conversation today. I mean, the way I explain it to people is in the winter of 2020, the rules of the game were set like basketball. Like you play on a rectangle court, 5 players on each side, you have a 3-point line. This is how you win the game. And those rules worked really well. Those were the rules of the game. And we were working in a place where, affluential people would come in, they would join, and we could sit down in front of them. We could help them get a plan. There's lots of different services that we offered at the time. And so for us to work in a place where we had full benefits, seeing lots of people, good opportunity to grow, 401k and health insurance, all that stuff was so vital for so many years. But the pandemic just shook everything up. And I'll just tell people, it's like it just changed the rules of the game. It's now played on a big circle grass field, and you have 12 players on each side. And this is not worth 3 points anymore. Our clients did not want to go back to the gym. They wanted to work out at home or wanted to work out outside. And they found that they actually really enjoyed it. They like not having to, shower and do makeup before you go to a gym, which is totally a thing around here. They didn't have to commute. They weren't working in the same place even. And so the whole Boundless Body is just us working with our people in a safe way. And that does include virtual training. And there's many different ways that can be successful. And we've used different ways. We've helped people, create meal plans and training plans and things like that. We also do, a few times a week, Bethany will host a Zoom Pilates class that for a very low price, people can sign up for and have a wonderful class that they can work out at home. I work with people on the East Coast. We work through Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. And I don't think that if you would have asked me that same question last year that I would have the same answer for you. But I think it really forced us to be smart about what we are going to offer moving forward and how we are going to pivot around a situation that's just changed. But I would be curious to hear you answer that same question.
Well, I've only ever really done remote training. Like I used to work front desk at a gym. But I was in like membership sales. It was just kind of, I didn't like it. I mean, that's when I had like freaking 15 different odd end jobs trying to make ends meet. And it was weird because, like they wanted traditional diet advice and I'm like, I don't really do that. I'm keto. So that's kind of when I started branching out and doing my own thing. So I've only ever really done remote training and I've found a way to make it work really effectively. However, I could definitely see how there could be massive frustrations from somebody that's, originally brought up in, in-person training, and they see a massive part of their market share getting taken by people that are just jumping on the online space where they have less overhead and less issues with like just scheduling conflicts and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I could see there being some tension there, especially when you have so many people that are like marketing themselves as online trainers, but they don't really have a clue what they're doing. They're just like, they have 6-pack abs and they just assume that they are the next wizard to give somebody a set of macros. So I can definitely see how that could be a frustration.
Yeah, well said. I completely agree with you. Smart of you to start by using a remote model and look how that's panned out for you. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, if you're putting out great content, I feel like you can do it effectively. And I don't really do much, exercise form training with my clients. Most of mine is all nutritional based, and I can definitely do that effectively with a remote model. I have talked to a few clients though who've done, remote training, do a Zoom call or something like that, and have all of that in person. Or not in person, but like remotely through a Zoom call, like critique on form and function. And to me, that seems like it'd be incredibly difficult and challenging, but I guess they make it work.
If you had asked me this last year, I would have said the same thing. It is not going to work, but we've been able to pull it off. Like there's challenges for sure. But if you're setting up a FaceTime or a Zoom call and you can see and communicate with that person, it's going a lot better than I would have ever thought it could go. You can definitely correct form. People work out in their basements or in their living rooms. We've had all kinds of weird setups at every park in our neighborhood. Like, as long as you're pragmatic and, you do the work to learn how to be a really good personal trainer, I think it can absolutely effectively be done remotely.
Well, it's been super cool to see how creative people have gotten with regard to their weight training and resistance training when their tools are very minimal, when they have limited, availability for equipment. I mean, there was a while there early on in the pandemic when like you couldn't buy resistance bands because they were all sold out. You couldn't buy dumbbells because they were all sold out. So seeing what people were doing when that time hit was pretty impressive. Honestly, like people, when there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, totally. Yeah. If you have a goal, it doesn't matter what the situation is. You can work around different circumstances in your life. You can find other solutions. It's the people that sit around and complain about everything all the time that never find a solution because they're too busy being upset about everything. Where for everybody else, like, well, we can try this. Maybe this will work. Let's do something different. And you're right. I think it's a really cool thing to see how creative people are getting with, dusting off their health riders and thigh masters and all this stuff in their basement. They can get good results. You don't need that much to get people really good results.
Yeah, totally agree. So when you were with the big box gym and the pandemic hit, did they like lay everybody off, or were they trying to implement some type of remote program in which you were operating under their umbrella with remote clientele, or did you just say, I'm going full in on my own thing?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, at the time it was such a confusing time. And we had heard initially that they were going to keep us on the payroll for a minimum of 5 months, regardless of what was going on. Then it was like the next week they said, okay, you're all unemployed, like go apply for unemployment insurance. We didn't know when they were thinking about reopening. All the states had different rules. And so it was kind of a state by state case. And so they called us back in early May, I want to say, they offered us an hourly rate for a few days to come in and clean equipment. And after that, we would be right back to being on 100% commission. And we just didn't have the clientele. We didn't have people that were willing to come back. And so that would have been a very difficult situation for us to go back into. We felt like it was a little too soon to begin with everything that was going on, but just for business, business alone, like we just didn't have a business to go back to. My program and what I was doing at Lifetime at the time was called metabolic testing. And what we do is we measure people's respirations, their breathing, either while they're resting or while they are exercising, like ramping up on a bike or a treadmill. And these people breathe in through a mask that concentrates their air and pushes it out, in one direction so that the machine can measure and analyze what that respiration looks like. Mm-hmm. And so obviously that program was like the very first one to get shut down. And I don't even know if it's back yet or not. So that made things challenging. Like my whole job, like what I was responsible for, I didn't know if that was going to come back online. And so we started kind of talking last spring, like this is actually happening. Maybe we could start our own thing. We can be our own business. We don't know how to build a website, but we can figure that out. We don't know how to do a podcast, but we can learn. I don't know how to do accounting, but I can learn that too. Like you learn these things as you go. It's never perfect when you get started, but if you commit to something, you start moving in that direction. It's amazing. All the things you pick up and learn along the way, the places where you get help from, the people that want to help you and have great advice. And it's been really pretty cool to look back on and see where we've come in this last year.
It's interesting, man. Like we were talking just earlier on your podcast about how this past year was a great opportunity for, people to double down on anything that they had chosen rather than just let it, fly by and squander that opportunity. And I think of like the entrepreneurship, like opportunities that existed throughout 2020. Like so many people had no, jobs calling to them. They had no obligations. Like their entire schedule was opened up instantly. And a lot of these people were still getting financial benefits from their previous employer or some type of unemployment or some type of, financial inflow without any type of or very minimized time demands. It's interesting to think about the opportunity that existed there. And like we had already built all of our companies before the pandemic ever hit, but for all the people that have wanted to build something, I certainly hope they took that time to do so.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. It's tough. It's tough because, we're sitting around here in the outskirts of Salt Lake, and we're watching all the craziness that's going on in the world around us and the racial inequalities and just all the issues that really, 2020 kind of brought to the table. And it's hard to, it was only for a few weeks, but we were getting unemployment benefits. And so what, you're going to pay me to sit around at home when a frontline worker, is making $7 an hour and getting yelled at, down the street at the store. So it's hard. It's hard because everybody's situation was a little bit different. And obviously the challenge of the pandemic was more, acute for a lot of people. But yes, in general, we completely agree that there was an opportunity there that we might not ever get ever again. It was an opportunity for us to reevaluate. We had always looked at our business as something that had to grow. Like whatever the number was, your goal is just more than that. Whatever hours you worked this week, they need to be more productive next week. And we were busting our balls and just the candle burning at both ends. And it was a lot of hours in a highly competitive setting. And we just weren't really that happy and really tired and worn out all the time. And, 2020 was the gift of time and space that we got to sit down and discuss our budget and what we wanted, how we wanted our life to be, and create an ideal life. And I'm so glad that we were able to do that. And it's been just amazing to see what's come from that since making those decisions really consciously.
Was there like any particular period throughout that where you doubted yourself, or what was the moment in which you realized that, okay, we're actually going to be okay?
Yeah. So this is weird, but on the kind of Monday that everything was shutting down, I was driving home from Denver, from Low Carb Denver, which was just the weirdest trade show ever as everything is closing down. And I was driving home, and we were learning what was maybe going to happen with the company. Are they going to close the gym? We learned later that day they would. And pretty much from the next day, I don't have any recollections or memories of the next 2 weeks in 2020. That was one of the darkest periods of my life. And for whatever reason, I don't even remember what they were. It's just complete darkness. And we kind of came out of that, and we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I started, kind of helping people with bikes last year, like tuning up bikes. It's something I used to do when I worked at the bike shop, and the bike shops were way backed up, and I was bored. And so that gave me something to do. But again, we had the time resource to really think this through. And so I think Boundless Body was born on walks around my neighborhood with my wife, and, talking things out. And again, planning this to be something really that we wanted to make, that we wanted to share with the world, that we wanted to offer a tremendous value and charge what we wanted to charge and help the people that we absolutely love. When she came up with the name Boundless Body, I agreed to it the second she said it. We had a dear friend who helped us design a logo. The first one that he sent over, I was absolutely in love with. And so it's hard to say if there was like one thing or one period. I think most people, they kind of expect that, right? They expect that they're gonna have this epiphany and that's gonna change their life. And maybe that happens for some people, but I think also just moving in a direction and deciding you're gonna do something elicits this response, this energy from, call it whatever you will, the universe, God, whatever. Like, you start to learn and get signposts along the way, and things refine as you go. It's just that you have to get started. You have to choose to do something and start moving in that direction. And it's been so amazing to learn so many new skills. It's been absolutely amazing to learn of all these incredible people in the entrepreneur sphere. I have never met a group of people that's more generous with their time, their money, their expertise. I've got several that I could reach out to right now that would set down everything to help me if I asked them to do that. And so, yeah, it's hard to say if there was one time. There was just, little sign points along the way, but it all came from just moving in a direction and trying to get a little closer every single day.
That movement is like the key phrase there, man. Like, so many people, I think, are unhappy in their current endeavors, their current jobs, their current relationships, or whatever, and they just expect this aha moment to just randomly, light bulb go off. And that's just not the way it works. Like, motion creates emotion. Motion creates the momentum to do things. And that is where so many people get it wrong. They just expect things to fall in their lap and the stars to align. But it's like, you gotta have enough faith and confidence in yourself that you're gonna learn something along the way, and then just go into it, all in. And then in doing that, you learn if it's the right thing. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, last summer I learned about, both of us had the same podcast mixer called the Rodecaster Pro. Mm-hmm. Pretty expensive, but it does a lot of like really cool things. I knew that's the direction I wanted to go, and it, made things a lot easier for me. So I talked to somebody about it in July. I twiddled my thumbs and then bought the thing in August, and it just sat for weeks. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I have been talking about doing a podcast and how it was going to look like. We decided on a day that we were going to record. We were going to record an episode where we interviewed each other. And that was going to be our introductory episode. This is what we want it to be. These are the people we want to land. This is what we want to talk about. Platform where people can find us, you can learn about us. And we were scheduled for a Sunday morning in October. And I was out, I think we were both out on separate walks in separate areas of the neighborhood. And it was about time for us to record. And I went to Bethany and I'm like, you know what? Like, let's wait like one more day. Let me do like one more practice run. Let me just make sure the sound settings are okay. And I'm so, so grateful that Bethany had the response that she did. And she just said, no, absolutely not. Like, we need to do this. And until we do this, it's not going to get done. We're going to continue not pushing record, not capturing content that's going to continue not helping people. So yeah, I listened back on that episode. It's really rough, and we changed our format several times, and I hate the sound of my own voice. We've come a long way, but none of that would have happened if I wouldn't have pushed record the first time. So yeah, I agree. I think taking the step, sending the intention outward that you are going to do something. You don't have all the steps yet, but you are going to learn those things as you go down your path.
That could not be more true with regard to content creation too, man. I mean, like there's so many instances where I look back on my first YouTube videos, my first podcast episodes, and it's like, man, like I see it now, I listen to it now, and I just cringe. It's like, I can't believe I put that out there. But it's like so many people compare themselves to like the pros. Like I was comparing myself to like Tim Ferriss's podcast when I first started recording podcasts. I'm like, man, mine's nowhere near his quality. It's like people expect it to be flawless at the onset, but the reality is like you got to document that journey, and people appreciate the fact that and you didn't know what you were doing in the beginning. That makes them feel more empowered to believe in them that they can do it as well.
Yep.
Like one of my favorite things to do with regard to YouTube videos is go to like the creme de la creme YouTubers who like have all the fancy transitions, all the cool drone footage, all the perfect edits, and then go back and watch their first 1 or 2 episodes. Like it's total crap. I mean, it's like not fancy at all. They don't even know how to speak correctly. They're fumbling over the words, and they've got millions of subscribers and they're killing it. Like everybody starts somewhere, and you got to be able to recognize that and appreciate it for what it is and just dive in.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe you can relate to this. I just didn't think I had a voice. Like I would think about and write down all the people that I wanted to record and talk to and have conversations with. And I don't think I fully realized how much of a different voice I have than somebody else. And I can connect with an audience that maybe somebody else won't be able to connect with. Like I think, we were able to interview Nina Teicholz, for example. Like I couldn't even get through the introduction of Nina Teicholz without crying. Like I got emotional in intro because I'm talking to Nina Teicholz.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. But that person has done 10,000 of that exact interview so many times. And so I just didn't think I had a way that, what was I going to say that somebody else like yourself, other great hosts of great shows that I listen to, what is something that I can say that nobody else can say? And I've been surprised, and I have to say that there is a difference. Our podcast is different than other podcasts, and it connects to different people. And yeah, if you're a listener and you're thinking about doing something and thinking it's not going to be perfect, I completely agree with you. Robert, I just do something, put it out, and it is inspiring to go back and see some of their original content. I think that's a great idea. Yeah,
and I mean, I feel like everybody has their own style and flair with things, and if you try to replicate somebody else's proven, like format with regard to their podcast or YouTube video, then it's never going to look as good because you're trying to replicate what they've done when they're trying to be as organic as possible. The only way for anybody to succeed in content creation is to be organically, unapologetically you. And people are going to resonate with that. The people that are going to be your loyal audience and followers are going to resonate with you. And you can't do that if you're trying to mimic somebody else's style.
That's right. Initially, that might be like a form of a compliment, but if you're doing the same thing, there's no originality to it. You and I think we're both helped along by a book. I heard it this last year. It sounds like you probably heard it years ago. Crushing It. Is it Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk?
Well, he's got a few. He's got Crush It was the original, and then he's got Crushing It.
That one.
And then I think he's going to write one called Crushed It or something like that. But it's all
Gotcha.
Like present, past, and future.
Gotcha. I came across his work last year when we were trying to get all this stuff set up. And the book was all about social media, which I've had a Facebook account, but this year is the first year I've learned how to use Instagram, and I'm horrible at it, really bad. And so in this book, you learn about all of these different medias and platforms and what TikTok is and does and how you advertise on Google and all of the different social medias and how to set up your SEO. And I'm learning about all these different things and trying to decide whoa, how am I going to manage all of this? And I decided to reach out to somebody who I knew from the gym a long time ago. His name's John Cottrell. He owns his business, which is private yoga training. He's got an apparel business called Embody. And he was really helpful when he was teaching me how to do yoga back then. And he's run his own business successfully for a lot of years. And so I reached out to him early on and I just said, okay, let's start to break this down. Who does all of your Facebook advertising? And his answer surprised me. He just kind of said I just do that myself. Oh, okay. Well, who's managing your Instagram account? Well, I do that myself. Okay. What about YouTube? What about TikTok? And he was like, look, man, I just kind of have fun with this. I learned how to do accounting so that I could do it myself. I don't drive myself crazy. I just, keep up with a few basics. Like, you can decide what you want your social media to be. It doesn't have to be the way everybody else does it. And that was so helpful for me to learn that yeah, okay, mine will be a little different. Maybe I'll focus on Facebook advertising and not YouTube advertising. I don't know. It's just, yeah, don't feel like you need to do what somebody else is doing. You go your own way and figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and one thing really important about that is like you learn how to become, effective in every single aspect of the business. Like if you own a business, like you need to know enough about accounting to recognize what a balance sheet is. You need to be able to know how to edit a video roughly and throw it up on social. You need to be able to know how to, market or, leverage influencers to get a message across. Like those are all things that you can eventually hire somebody that's better at you in that specific task to do. But it's very important that anybody that owns a business has enough understanding of every single aspect of the business that they can have some familiarity with that. Like that's one thing that I'm incredibly proud of. Like every single aspect of my business, I could, like if all of my employees left tomorrow, I could do everything. It wouldn't be as efficient. It wouldn't be as pretty. It wouldn't be as, good as it is now. But I know that I've got the skills necessary to be able to do everything within the business. I feel like that's something that everybody should be able to do.
That is savage. I love it. I love it. It feels good to have those skills. And once you have the skills, you can do it. And you're right. Like we hired a guy to help us out with our taxes this last year, but I also paid him a little extra so that he could teach me how to do more of it this next year. And maybe I won't need him over time because I'm learning that skill set that I didn't previously possess before. And so, yeah, I love that. I think it's a great idea to outsource stuff that you don't like and you're not good at, but you can also learn as you go and hone in some of those skills. And once you know them, you can use them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, especially with something as like critical as like taxes and finances and accounting. Like you need to know what your accountant is doing and why. And like, because if you don't, then like you lose so much clarity and transparency within your own company, and then you become a slave to the company because like you're relying so much on somebody outside of the company to dictate what you do or don't do. Like you need to be so incredibly aware of every aspect of your company that you understand if it's moving in the right direction or in the wrong direction. Once you know that general trajectory, you can kind of hone things in and hire someone that's better at a specific skill set, to refine and polish. Like I've edited and uploaded every single YouTube video that we've ever published until here recently when I hired a full-time media guy because he can do it much, much better than me. But again, if he left tomorrow, I would still be able to throw together a YouTube video. But since I know how the whole process works, I've got much more clarity in knowing, how long it should take him to edit a video, how long it should take him to set up and film a video. Like if I didn't have any of that context, then he'd probably constantly frustrate me because I'm like, come on, man, why is it taking so long? But since I know how long it takes, I let him do his thing because he's the more creative person when it comes to that.
That's great. Very well said. I love that.
I want to dive into what you've discovered in building a content-based business alongside your wife. Like that is something that a lot of people probably have an issue with. A lot of people probably have a hard time doing, and some people would just totally excel in. What has that been like for you?
Guess and check. Throw some shit against the screen, see what sticks. It's been really fun. We try to keep it really light. We're in a very unique situation. I want to be really apparent and, grateful for our situation. We are in a spot where we're not necessarily looking to grow our numbers. Like, I think if you are a successful person and you're really driven, one of the most difficult things to come across, like maybe almost the opposite of success, isn't like no success or a complete failure, but it's learning when is it enough? Like, what do you truly want? Do you want more money? Do you need more clients? Or would you rather, work with less clients? Maybe you don't need to spend as much money that you thought you did. And I don't think enough people really have clarity on that. And so they're always just driving to create more when maybe more is not necessarily what they need. And so we currently we really have all of the clients that we want. We work with our people, at their homes or outside in parks. This last year, we finished our basement into a gym space and Pilates studio where we can work with people. We see a few people a day, and we try to, give them the highest value and the best service that we possibly can. And we found that rather than a financial resource of just more, if we could continue living a smaller life in our smaller home, in our little neighborhood, we actually really enjoyed that. And we don't need to work with as many people. And so that frees up a lot of time for us. And that's why we have the podcast. And so for the content that we do, we don't really have any rules on what we do or why we do it. We place a high value on consistency. So Bethany, for about a year, was doing every Friday. She called it Fitball Friday, where she would do some Pilates moves and put those out every single Friday. I don't think she does them nearly as consistently, because she's just so busy now. But, we just saying exactly what you were saying. Like, we use video editor on the phone. Is that the most efficient way to do things? Probably not. But we're just going to put a video with a small label, and we're just going to put it out there. If people watch it, that's great. If they don't, that's great. We just try to keep it really light. We're not actively marketing. We're not driving for more business. We don't have any products. Like, you can't go to our website and buy anything. That's just not who we are. So yeah, to answer the question, I guess we just kind of have fun with it, and we don't really have a lot of rules about it. We just want to, share our message. And if it helps somebody along the way, we think that's just totally great.
The concept of enough is something that I've thought about a lot lately, man. So I'd love to really dive into that topic. I mean, a lot of people, like you said, they don't have any perspective as to what is enough for them. So they I guess, fill that void with just wanting and doing and expecting more, which I think can often spiral out of control. And I'm all for hustling and doing more. Like, that's literally my manifesto for this year. So I'm all about that. But the concept of being enough, having enough, and being at peace with that is incredibly important. So I'd love for you to kind of talk about that, man. Like, what does that mean for you exactly? Like, how did you know that you had reached that point? What does that mean for your future and where you take things? Like, what's the sustainability of enough?
This is a hard one. This is a really tough one. And again, I think, I've been lucky and fortunate to have a great career in personal training. And again, it was a grind. It was a lot of work. It was, never stopping to learn, listening to podcasts at double the speed in my car every single minute of driving to learn more and more, to share with my clients, those learnings, see what worked, see what didn't, creating programs and seminars. And I mean, my God, all the free stuff we would give away and all that stuff, just, it was a lot of work. And all of it at the time was, again, it was for more. I remember, I think you've even talked about this in the past yourself. I remember it was 2018, wasn't particularly the most successful time in my life. The year before, I had been demoted from a position. It was just, kind of relearning where I would fit with the company and what things I would do. I remember there was a meditation that I did, just a little guided meditation. And once it got me to a calm frame of mind, it just asked a very simple question. And it said, what if there were no limits, and if there was nothing to stop you, time, money, whatever you wanted, what would your ideal life be in 5 years? And, I sat down and I actually did the exercise, which I often don't, but I recorded in my phone a few things that were attributes of a life that I thought I wanted at the time. And I put things on there, like I envisioned myself walking along a beach with flip-flops, very relaxed, and just enjoying a beach and water. I imagined, a pretty chill social life, not a ton of energy from a ton of people, but people that I really love, like maybe neighbors, family, whatever. I envisioned serving people. I really wanted to help people out. And I think I've been fortunate to have, learned a lot of things along the way, and I love sharing them with my people, and I hope it's really helpful to them. And those were some of the general things that I put down for that meditation of if there's no restriction, what do you want your life to be? And fast forward, it hasn't been the 5 years. It's only been 2 or 3, but you know what? Like I walk like 5 to 10 miles a day, and there is a lake by my house, and that lake has a beach, and I can walk up there anytime and walk by the beach, and I can help people and serve people in a way that I feel really good about it. And I feel like I'm being authentic and giving them great value. And I'm kind of stunned after these years. I'm pretty damn close to having what I thought I wanted for my most ideal life. Every day, there's so much joy and gratitude and space for something that I didn't have before. And now, the time that I was grinding it out looking for new clients is now time spent with a few clients and with the neighborhood cats. You know what I mean? Like I get to be out and really enjoy that life. And so I think it's really important for people to take some time. Like sometimes it's not that comfortable, but take some time and really consider, like, what do you want? Do you want more money? Do you want a bigger business? There's nothing wrong with those two things, but just make sure that you're choosing it, because you might learn that you actually don't want to work a shitty job for 45 years only to retire old and sick and with no energy. Like you may want to kind of change things now so that isn't you if that's not what you're looking to do. So I think the mindfulness and consciousness around that is the most important thing, and taking some time to be really considerate about truly what do you want in your life. If you didn't have any restrictions, nothing could stop you. What would you choose as your life? And again, to be somebody who's successful and really likes to, succeed and grow and learn, that finding enough is really tough. But there's a time in the afternoon when I close my laptop and I say, that was good. That was okay. Whatever I did today is whatever I did today. And now it's time to relax, and I try again tomorrow.
That's awesome, man. I think that is so eloquently put. And I feel like everybody needs to take that time to ask those deep probing questions to figure out what that means for them, because it is going to be different for everybody, and it should be. But like it all boils down to the self-awareness of knowing who you are and what you want, and then working towards that in a sustainable manner that you enjoy on a day-to-day basis. Because if you don't do that, then what's the point?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you and I interview a lot of the same people, and these people have figured out, something in their diet or their exercise or their life where they are incredibly successful, financially. They're successful with their fitness and their nutrition. And when you hear them talk, they don't really plan on retiring as they're aging. Right? They're thriving and kicking ass and having a blast and following their bliss every single day. And it's like the concept of retirement is totally different. Like look at somebody like, Brad Kearns or Mark Sisson or Phil Maffetone. We just released an episode with him today. Like these guys are thriving. They've got no intention of, retiring in the sense that we would consider retirement. They're planning on living their passion for as long as they can until they drop dead. I think that's a really cool mindset switch to have. We definitely prioritize things like retirement a lot less than we used to.
Yeah, I've always had an issue with that, man. Even before the business, before any of that, like it just seemed very contrary to what made sense as a human to spend the better half of my years where I've got, utmost physical capabilities and, energy to work in a job that I didn't like, to retire after my body had declined from just strenuous hours of working in a job I didn't like. Like no part of that ever made any sense to me. So I've always just fought tooth and nail to not do that.
Wow. Yeah. Good for you for recognizing that early. You definitely recognized that a lot earlier than I did. So good for you.
Yeah, man. Well, you're definitely killing it now. With regard to the concept of enough, I feel like the way, like media nowadays does not bode well towards instilling this philosophy of enough in people's minds, especially younger generations of people's mind, because it is always this weird comparison game and a race and a competition, and people are put on a pedestal that have more, more cars, more money, more braggadocious lifestyles. So does any of that ever kind of gnaw at you, or are you able to just totally remove that from your psyche in its entirety?
Mm, that is a great question. I mean, I can't say that I never feel those things. Like I said, we've got a smaller home in a very nice neighborhood in the suburbs of South Jordan, Utah. And there's a lot of different sized homes in our neighborhood. And we probably have one of the smallest around. And there's others that are, in the millions. And, I think it's that consciousness that you were talking about earlier that is so critical to keep you grounded in the space that you truly want. Yeah, that's a big, house, but that's like one more thing that you have to take care of and worry about and ensure. And is that truly what you want? And there's no right or wrong answer. If that's what you want, then that's great. You should go get it. But yeah, I believe it's a consciousness around those things that can help you remember to stay grateful for the things that you have, appreciate the things that you have, and realize that, you know what, like I don't want anything more than I already have. And that's a really, nice thing to say. And I'm really grateful to be in that spot. But if I'm truly answering that question, that's my answer. I don't really want anything that I don't already have. Somebody gave me an Amazon gift card a few months ago, and I weirdly struggled to figure out what I was going to buy with it. Like I've got all the things I need. You can have a simple life. You can have, really high quality relationships with less people, and nurture those and linger around a little bit longer. And if you're conscious enough with yourself and ask yourself, like, is this what I truly want in my life? You might find that a lot of things that you thought you wanted or needed were just more stuff. And when you got those things, you were not one iota happier or, better for it. And you must see it all the time, Robert, in the bodybuilding community. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's this like idea of like, I'm going to get as fit as I possibly can. I'm going to be as tan as possible. I'm going to look the best I've ever looked in my life. And you're chasing after that ghost that ends up being a ghost at the end of a competition. I noticed a lot of people, they weren't like happier. They were the same. They were even more miserable the next day if they gained a bunch of weight and felt really bad, especially if they didn't win or whatever. And so like I put that question on people. It's like, if I gave you what you say you wanted right now, what would change in your life? Is your life any better, any different, any happier than it would be if I didn't? And I think more often than not, that answer is no.
Yeah, so true, man. So true. I've really tried to adopt more of a minimalist lifestyle towards like my possessions. I mean, we have a lot of things here because like we have the business here. We've kept a lot of production in house. We have like a lot of, equipment and stuff. But I mean, like I said, I'm living, I don't know if I said this on my podcast or your podcast, but I'm living in a freaking bedroom that is an office space, and all of our stuff can fit into, 2 office spaces worth. Like, it's a very minuscule amount of stuff. Like the things that I have, I appreciate, and I try to only get high quality things that will last a long time that I could potentially pass down to, my kids if they want them. But it's weird how like physical things, physical products, like they truly do not add any long-term satisfaction. Like they're all nice in the moment and you can get excited about it and you can appreciate it. But when I look back on my life and all the memories that stood out to be like truly, pivotal in how I view myself and who I am as a person, none of those memories have ever been me buying something. Like never once, but there's times where I've had something nice that I've been able to use that elicits this experience that I appreciate. And for that, I could totally get behind it. But just simply buying things, especially like stupid things that are just there to keep up with the Joneses and try to masquerade as somebody that's more important than they are, it's like that I have no desire to do that.
My fancy podcasting studio, Boundless Body Studios LLC, is on the carpet in a second bedroom looking at my cycle clothes. And I'm looking at all the cycling clothes that I have. I've gotten rid of a ton of these over the years. I see 3 that I had made last summer that have our logo and Boundless all over it. And boy, it feels so cool to rep your own stuff. I mean, how awesome does it feel to like the savage hats that you guys sell and to wear your own stuff? Like, isn't that the coolest feeling?
Yeah, man, I'm wearing my shirt and my hat right now.
I love it. It's great. It feels so cool. So I'm looking at these 3 bike kits And then I'm looking at probably 10, 12 other ones and thinking like, why did I need all of this? Like, I'm not ever going to use them again. If you have one or two of something that you really enjoy, like, you're totally right. You don't need to go out and just accumulate more stuff. I would be so happy getting rid of all these damn, bike kits that are just sitting around. They're not even getting used. Nobody's taking any enjoyment out of them. And yeah, I don't know why we have this obsession about keeping up with the Joneses and accumulating more stuff. I mean, I think this is from the Tao Te Ching, but one of my favorite sayings is, knowledge is gaining, wisdom is giving away or losing. And I'm paraphrasing that, but you see what I'm getting at is like, you almost spend the first half of your life accumulating, the knowledge. You read more books, you study more, you're giving and collecting things. And then you reach this point where you pretty much have a good base of knowledge. And it's not like you have to stop learning, but now it's a time to kind of release and get that stuff out and give things away. I love the minimalist approach. It's great. Share your knowledge, clear out your house, like whatever that looks like to you. Yeah. I think we have way too much stuff and I don't think we're any better for it. And oftentimes, taking a big old, garbage bag to a donation center nearby feels really damn good.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, here lately, like since we bought that house and we've been going up there on the weekends and like working on the land, like there's nothing more satisfying to me than spending all day like bush hogging out in the field, coming back up, throwing some steaks on the grill, having a glass of wine with Crystal and just watching the sunset. Like that is pretty freaking cheap in the grand scheme of, things that you can spend money on in life, like a couple of steaks, glass of wine, and the one-time expense of the bush hog. Like that is not much at all, but that is so satisfying and so fulfilling. Like I just have a smile from ear to ear every single time I get to do that. And like it's just like getting your hands dirty and building something with your own two hands. Like I look at the business that we've built. I look at, just the things in life that don't cost anything. Like that is a business. Building a business can cost some money for sure. Don't get me wrong there. But the things in life that bring the most satisfaction are not purchased in a supermarket.
That is so well said. I absolutely love that. I can get behind that 100%. I will definitely be hitting you up one of these days for some steaks. That sounds amazing. And you're right. It's such a simple experience, but it's like, it's there. It's always there. We're just constantly like missing, like the joy of seeing animals around the neighborhood and birds interacting and, the way blossoms come up in the springtime, like all of this stuff just passed me by every single day for my entire life. And the gift to be able to slow down and appreciate those things, I don't know that I want my life to be any different. I like a smaller life. It feels really enjoyable. I have more gratitude than I've ever had. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And yeah, I think we just let those things just pass us by for our entire life without ever stopping to appreciate them.
I forget where I read this. I don't know if it was a podcast or a study or something, but it was something to the effect of once Americans, surpass, or maybe it was, people, I don't know what the statistics were, but it was basically once people surpassed, I think it was like 70 grand a year or something like that, their level of happiness does not continue to increase. Like they said something to the effect of based off the current cost of living, once you get to that threshold tipping point and all your basic needs are met, your increase in yearly revenue does not contribute to any exponential increase in overall happiness. And I feel like that's probably so true. Like once your basic needs are met and you're able to have food on the table and, all of your must-haves are accomplished, then the amount of money you make should not be the driving factor towards your happiness. And honestly, it's oftentimes the exact opposite. I mean, the whole concept of more money, more problems, once you get to that point, there's probably some truth to that, because I see a lot of people that are, uber successful from a business standpoint or, a brand building company standpoint. And like their relationships are in shambles. They've divorced, multiple times. They don't have a relationship with their kids. Like that is not the life that I want to live either.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree. For us, in the beginning of the shutdown, when we sat down and said, okay, let's just look at all the things we spend money on. Look, what is the minimum for us personally? It's different for everybody, but what is the minimum for us personally that we can take in per day, per week, whatever, and not have to cancel Netflix? for as long as this thing's going to go. Who knows? But we don't even need to worry about Netflix. We're totally good. And that number was far, far less than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, we were making a lot more when we were at the gym, but I don't know where that money went. Like, to be honest with you, I'm far happier with way less today. Yeah, it's kind of shocking, really. But yeah, it provides a life that has so much more appreciation for the things and the experiences and the people that you have in it.
Mm-hmm. Totally, man. Totally. Well, what are you excited about? What's on the horizon? What's the next chapter with the business, with the brand? What are your wife and you have cooking?
Oh man. I mean, the biggest thing that we have cooking right now is, we are going to travel for the first time since the pandemic, and we are going to Mexico for 10 days, 9 nights, all inclusive. It's a resort we've been to before. There's just kind of like off the coast, this kind of like rocky path that you kind of have to walk. And we realized when we visited this place before, not a lot of people were willing to walk down this kind of rocky path. And we were like, well, let's go try it. That should be fun. And it got to this like private area of the resort that hardly anybody was. And so it's cabanas everywhere, little bar, little restaurant close. It had, the ocean was right in front of you, but it also had a pool which came in from the ocean. And so you're swimming around with little fish in salt water. And we're looking forward to that more than anything. The business, it's like I said earlier, our goal is not necessarily to grow. We're both as busy as we want to be. So now the goal is to continue increasing the value that we're providing people. Podcasting has definitely been a big part of that. I love doing these interviews and, learning so many things from so many people and sharing that out in the world. And so that will definitely continue forever, hopefully. But yeah, as far as us and how we go, we're pretty full where we are. If we need, additional clients, we can always do some marketing, but we're really happy to be enjoying life and helping our people, and at the same time sharing something that really doesn't cost a person anything besides time to listen to and energy to consider. So yeah, we're just going to continue with all of those things.
I love it, man. I love it. Are you going to do any like in-person podcasting in Mexico, or are you totally disconnecting for the week?
We have all of our episodes scheduled. We're backed out maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. So we have enough recorded already that they will release automatically while I'm down there. I like to, tease them out on social media. I think it's gives some respect to our guests who come on. They sacrifice their time. So we really only try to concentrate on them and what they've got going on and, promote the hell out of them. So the only thing I'll be doing is watching the automatic releases and making little, social media things. But that takes me 2 or 3 minutes. I can do that on a morning walk. That'll be pretty easy. And yeah, we'll have, 10 days off of interviewing people.
Nice, man. I feel like having periods of time like that where you totally disconnect and just remove yourself from the daily routine, which I'm a huge fan of the daily routine. I think having a routine that you're effective and efficient in, that you love, is absolutely paramount. But having brief periods of time, like walking in a private beach in Mexico with cabanas and fish in the pool, is the way to disconnect and just simply come back with even more vigor than you had when you left.
Yep. We totally agree. It's interesting. I've been hearing more of this than I have in the past, but it seems like a lot of high performing people will take a week a year or 2 weeks a year, and they'll just disappear somewhere like you described. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea for a reset. Yeah,
100%, man. For me, it's like down at the farm, we go down there for like hunting camp and whatnot, and there's no cell phone service, there's no internet. So like when I'm there, I can't not disconnect. And it's kind of stressful initially, but at the same time, it's like, I know I'm going to be better for it by just letting myself be at peace with it.
Man, I love that. That's great.
100%. Well, shoot, man, where can people go to listen to the podcast and find you on the socials?
Yeah, sure. So we are Boundless Body. Our website is myboundlessbody.com. There's a way that you can contact us directly there. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you've got questions or you need a plan or, just want to talk or bounce some ideas off each other. We're more than happy to help that way. Our podcast is called Boundless Body Radio. We release our episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and sometimes a bonus episode on Saturday if we feel like it. Yeah, we're on all the platforms, any major platform where you can find podcasts, you'll be able to find us. We really focus on the health and fitness aspects, but we really concentrate on, stories and storytelling. And so it's kind of fun. Like, one day I can interview a former professional hockey player, and the next day I can load up my gear and drive 45 minutes and interview my grandparents.
Yeah.
We've interviewed, a few of my personal friends who ended up having amazing, compelling stories that I was not even aware of, and so many obstacles that they've overcome in their personal lives. And it's been really fun, and we hope people, enjoy it, check it out. Let us know if you ever have ideas, but that's where they can find both of those.
Well, I will certainly link out to that, man. Let's definitely keep in touch, brother. I'll have to get you out to the new compound once we move. We'll do an in-person podcast studio.
Done. That sounds great. Don't have to ask me twice.
Awesome, man. Well, before then, go to Mexico, disconnect, enjoy yourself, and keep killing it, brother.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be included in your guest. You do a really great job with your podcast, so thank you very, very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Well, keep doing what you're doing, Casey. You're changing lives, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Likewise. So thank you again for taking the time to listen to my appearance on the Keto Savage podcast. Like I said earlier, make sure you go support Robert and what he's doing. Go subscribe to the Keto Savage podcast. They do such a great job. They have amazing guests. Make sure to leave them a rating and review. I would also highly, highly encourage you to go check out some of Robert's products. The Keto Bricks that he makes are amazing. I just got my very first value pack, so I get to try a whole bunch of different flavors. I just yesterday finished the Mocha Cream flavor, which was really, really good. You really can't find a better product if you're trying to support yourself on a ketogenic diet. So I highly recommend you go and check that out. Thanks again for listening, and this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.